Hi guys, welcome to the second part of the tutorial how to integrate React with an existing web app. So in the last video we saw how we implemented the increase, decrease and reset buttons. So now we need to complete the auto counter. So to do the auto counter we have to review three basic concepts. The set timeout and set interval functions in JavaScript, it will allow us to execute a function every, let's say, 1 second, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. We have the React use effect. The use effect is a function that executes when the component renders. For example, let's say that we have our component and the first time it renders, we want to get our latest twists, for example. So we render, but also the effect can be run multiple times. For example, if I'm looking at my e-commerce website, I'm displaying the first, let's say, 10 products. If I scroll, I can display the next 10 products, so the effect will be run multiple times as I keep scrolling, so the effect will keep executing to get the latest products. And the callback, React use callback, so it returns a memoized version which prevents unnecessary renders. Let's say that for example, after we load up our first 10 products, then we load up the next 20 products. If I go back, I don't need to call again the let's say my web API to load up the product, so I can just get the values that are in the memoized version of the result. So that will be useful. This is very useful when we have a big application and to avoid some performance issues, so we can always refer to the callback. Don't worry about too much about this. So we'll see those concepts while we are implementing the component. Okay, let's first thing, let's look at the set interval function. So, JavaScript. Okay, let's create a div. Okay, so we call it counter JQuery. So let's use JQuery for this. Okay, and so let's say function HTML. So we say let's create a variable c is equal to 0, so that will keep our counter. Okay, so the next thing is to create a function, say function handle increase counter. So really what it does is just increases the counter by 1 and displays the counter into the div. Okay. So to call the set interval, we need to create a reference to it. So we just create a variable which is a reference to the set interval. So we pass the function that we want to execute and the number of milliseconds that this has to be executed. So 1000 milliseconds means every second. So okay, let's run this. Okay, as you see here, the counter is increasing. But let's stop the counter after 10 seconds, after we reach to 10. So say we call it clear interval, and we need to pass the reference. So say my function. Let's make it faster. Okay, every half second. Okay, see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stop. Okay, so we got it. So this is what we're gonna use to implement our auto counter. So let's get rid of this. We don't need that anymore. Let's get rid of this counter. So basically what's gonna happen is that whenever we click on the auto counter, so the counter will start increasing. Yeah, it would be a good idea to have a stop counter. So let's add a new button. We call it stop counter. And let's change the color, we make it dark. There we go. Okay. Okay, now let's implement the auto counter and the stop counter. So handle decrease. Okay, let's get rid of this because we don't need it. Instead, we're gonna just use the set counter to -1. Okay, so we have more space to do our coding. Okay, let's call use effect. React use effect is a function, and okay, let's see. Let's write to the console the counter. Okay. So what this does is it will execute this effect only once. So let's see. Okay, if we go into the console, we can see the value 0 here. If I increase, so it won't print the value because we said that to only execute it once. But if we say that execute this effect every time there is a change in the counter, so we'll just need to pass the counter. So if we have some more objects, so we just do a comma separated. So for example, object 1, object so object 1, object 2, and so on. Okay, but in this case we only have the counter. Okay, let's see now what's the difference. So increase, as you see here, is printing the value. So decrease. Okay. Right. Okay. So as we saw into our JavaScript example, we need a reference to the set interval. Okay, but in this case, what we're gonna do is because the component gets rendered every time that the counter will get increased. So what we have to do is we need to use the React use ref. Say now. So this what it does is it only keeps only one reference instead of creating a new reference to the timer, because every time that there is an update on the component, on the render, so it will create a new reference, but we want to avoid that. So the way to do it is we just need to call the use reference hook. So they will give us only one instance of the interval. Okay, then we're gonna create a start function. Okay, as we also said, we're gonna call it a callback. So we say use callback. So the use callback is we can declare a function here, and we're gonna say that we'll say that it will execute only once. So the start and the stop. Okay. So we use this syntax, so we can just have, for example, in the onClick, we can just say start. Example, that's different from the previous example, you see? So we have to pass the function, but in this case we only need to pass the const. Okay, so that's the only difference. We can use the function if we want to, but in this case just to make it shorter. Okay, so what's gonna happen here is that the interval, when we do the start, the interval current value is gonna be equals to set interval. So as we say, the set interval takes a function, okay, and execute it. We will execute it every second, so 1000 milliseconds. Okay, and stop. Use callback. So the stop. What is gonna happen is we call the clear interval, and which is the current interval. Okay, so here we're gonna set our counter. We're gonna increase our counter to 1. Okay. Okay, let's execute. Okay, auto counter. We see that is increasing the counter. Stop counter. Okay, we have to do the same. And click, we say we call stop. Right. Okay, let's refresh it. So the auto counter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we stop the counter. So it stops at 6. So we say auto counter, carry on with the execution. Okay, so we stop the counter. Okay, it's working fine. So, but let's say, for example, that we want to stop the counter when it reaches 10. So what we do is if say that the counter is 10, so we just need to call the stop function. Okay, let's see, auto counter 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, stop. Okay, so next thing is that let's imagine that when we get to 10, we want to display a nice pop-up saying, oh, the counter has reached its max value. So maybe we can use JQuery UI pop-up. So as I said, React and JQuery can work together. So in the next video, I'll show you how we can easily add the JQuery UI, so we can combine both React components and JQuery components. Okay, if you have any questions, please leave your comments on YouTube. See you on the next video. Bye.